A very good morning. You're watching the morning news. This is the first bulletin of the day on TV3 right here on New Day. This bulletin is coming to you live from the news app here at Adesawe Kanda on Facebook. We're live on TV3 Ghana and on DSTV channel 279. My name is Josh Quinn. Top of the stories is our. Finance Minister outlines new revenue sources to make up for tax cuts in the 2025 budget, which he described as a blueprint to stimulate growth, stability and opportunity. Meanwhile, minority in Parliament says the budget statement did not inspire hope and is full of lamentations. Also coming up this morning, 4 out of 7 individuals accused of stealing from the former sanitation minister, Cecilia Dapa, to plead guilty for reduced sentence. Well, we have details of these stories and many more coming up in the next 20 minutes if you spend your time with me. Let's begin from the budget statement, because the Finance Minister, Dr. Kesilato Forson, has outlined government economic recovery strategies to address pressing national needs, support vulnerable communities and stimulate growth. From expenditure cuts to budgetary allocations and abolishment of nuisance taxes, the government says it is poised to save in a troubling economy. But the minority has described the fiscal policy as a deception. Christian Yale reports.
The Finance Minister, Dr. Kesilato Forson, indicated that this government inherited a troubling economy due to crippling amount of debt left by the previous administration.
We inherited an economy in deep crisis. Mr. Speaker, an economy hard hit with debt and beset by other fiscal challenges, such as large accumulation of MDRS, energy sector, shortfalls, and financial sector payments. At the end of December 2024, total central government arrests amounted to 67.5 billion Ghana cedis, representing 5.2% of GDP.
He then went ahead to outline a number of fiscal policies that this government seeks to embark on in order to set the country on a path of recovery and progress.
We will provide a cedi equivalent of $279 million as a revolving fund for the Ghana Gold Board to be able to purchase and export at least 3 tons of gold per week from small-scale miners.
And to what many had expected, the Finance Minister indicated that his government will go ahead to abolish a number of tax handles, including the e-levy, the betting tax, as well as the COVID-19 levy.
We will abolish the 10% withholding tax on betting. We will abolish the electronic transfer levy, e-levy of 1%. We will abolish the emission levy, otherwise as a WUSIE tax.
And as expected, the minority had their own objections to the budget statement as read by the Finance Minister.
The youth of this country have been waiting for this 24-hour economy policy. The minister tells us the policy will be brought later. Hey, Ato, the policy will be brought later. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that all the jobs they promised the youth of this country was merely an Azam promise.
This budget is a budget for Makola women. This budget is a budget for assemblymen. Yes. This budget is a budget for girls.
The announcement of allowances for assembly members was one that received a rapturous applause from members of parliament on the majority side.
Another amount of 100 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for the payment of monthly allowance to all assembly members.
The Finance Minister ended his statement in a rather interesting way by listing a tall number of items that this government has successfully delivered.
We committed to running a lean, efficient government of 60 ministers. Mr. Speaker, we have delivered. We committed to scrapping the betting tax. We have delivered. Right, Honorable Speaker, we committed to eliminate academic fee for first-year public tertiary students, we have delivered. We committed to reset Ghana, we are delivering.
Well, let's still stay on the budget statement because the Sector Minister, Dr. Keselato Forson, has disclosed that two state-owned banks, the Agricultural Development Bank, ADB, and the National Investment Bank, NIB, require a 2.2 billion cedi capital injection to sustain the operations. Presenting the 2025 budget in Parliament, he highlighted the lingering impact of the domestic debt exchange program, which left several banks struggling with losses, adding that the financial sector is yet to fully recover. Take a listen.
Beginning this year, we will formalize the export of Ghanaian labor to other countries. We will ensure a structured and beneficial system for Ghanaian workers seeking employment abroad and create safer legal pathway for them to work in foreign countries whilst protecting their rights and welfare. Mr. Speaker, this will also reduce illegal immigration, prevent worker exploitation, and maximize the economic benefits of remittance and boost foreign exchange earners. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to how these resources will be allocated in the year 2025. Mr. Speaker, we will provide a cedi equivalent of $279 million as a revolving fund for the Ghana Gold Board to be able to purchase and export at least 3 tons of gold per week from small-scale miners.
Well, Finance Minister Dr. Keselato Forson has presented the government's plan to restore stability to Ghana's economy in the 2025 budget. He also announced plans to scrap a number of taxes, as has been called by the citizenry. But how does government intend to make up for the shortfalls in revenue? Judith Brown reports.
For most political parties, tax cuts are one of the most important strategies in winning votes, as it always appeals to the masses. And while parties boast of expenditure cuts and financial engineering techniques, no clear alternatives are often made for the revenue shortfalls. And so once they get into office, reality hits. The result? More taxes. In 2017, for instance, the MPP scrapped and reduced 15 of what they referred to as nuisance taxes. But by the time they left office, they had introduced 40 new taxes, almost tripling the previous scrapped taxes. Fast forward to 2025, and the NDC is scrapping a number of taxes, including the e-levy and betting tax.
We will abolish the 10% withholding tax on winning from lottery, otherwise known as the betting tax. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the electronic transfer levy, e-levy, of 1%. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 10% withholding tax on betting. We will abolish the electronic transfer levy, e-levy of 1%. We will abolish the emission levy, otherwise as a Wusie tax. We will abolish the VAT on motor vehicle insurance policy. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 1.5% withholding tax on unprocessed gold by small-scale miners.
While many are in support of the removal of these taxes, it is estimated that scrapping the e-levy, betting tax and COVID levy will result in a revenue loss of about 7.6 billion Ghana cedis. So how does government intend to make up for the lost revenue? Finance Minister Dr. Keselato Forson in his budget presentation says allocations have already been made for the e-levy and betting tax.
Mr. Speaker, by reducing the ceiling on the tax refund from 6% to 4%, Right Honourable Speaker, we have saved the taxpayer 3.8 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this amount is enough to close the revenue shortfalls from the removal of the e-levy and the betting levy. Mr. Speaker, the e-levy would have accrued 1.9 billion Ghana cedis. and the betting tax would have accrued 180 million. The two put together is just above 2 billion Ghana cedis. By reducing the tax refund account from 6 to 4, it is enough to remove this tax, and the savings will be provided to take care of social interventions.
But the question remains, is this allocation enough, especially when other taxes including the emission levy, VAT on motor insurance and 1.5% withholding tax are also slated to be scrapped? Well, one thing is certain, that the Ghanaian people will hold the government accountable. Will they deliver? Only time will tell. Judith Brown, TV3 News.
Well, after the budget, opinions were split among members of Parliament. Marina Egbeta has details.
The Finance Minister, Dr. Kassia Latoforsen, has presented the much-anticipated first major budget of the John Mahama administration. And without a shred of doubt, the reactions has been mixed. For the NPP minority, what has been put or captured in the budget is nothing short of Sakawa. In a hurriedly organized press conference, they took on the Mahama administration for failing to exonerate them with respect to their economic growth.
The minister has confirmed to the whole world today that the economy we handed over to the NDC government was a strong economy. We have been telling Ghanaians that the economy was not in crisis. President Mahama used the soda to lament over an economy which was not in crisis.
Same was the argument of his other colleague MPs on the NPP side.
The president told us last week, hadn't we done a electoral structure, that the economy was in coma. He said it. Now, after 1 week, the real official figures are showing that we have performed better than they handed over to us. Another thing is that the target they have set, their own target, they are setting GDP target of about 4% or 4.4, lower than they have inherited.
The MPP left for you 4 months of import cover, about $8.9 billion. He's telling us that by the end of the year, he would have chopped 1 month import cover. So he's going to reduce our gross international reserves by 1 month.
But for the governing National Democratic Congress, they completely disagree.
It does appears, people come in the chamber, some people are dozing away, some people are sleeping a bit, some people are focusing on their phones. And so maybe they were not really following, the statement that was being presented by the minister. I think the minister told us how he's going to get the revenue, and then told us how he's going to spend the money. The money.
E-levy is gone today. The betting tax is gone. COVID-19 levy is gone. And then we are reversing the complete idea of VAT flat rate regime. So it means that whoever is listening to us from afar, just know that under tax components, you won't pay for critical tax handles. And it's a good news.
I say today's budget is a budget of hope. Look at the way President Mahama religiously honored all the promises he gave to Ghanaians. The 120 social contracts, 60 ministers, sealed.
For now, the debates will continue on the floor of the House with a subsequent approval granted to the budget statement as delivered, with appropriation also expected to be tabled before respective committees for work to be done and approval submitted. Marina Egbeta, TV3 News, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, if you just tuned in, you're still watching the morning news here on TV3 with me, Josh Quinn. In more news this morning, government failed to budget for its flagship initiative, the 24-hour economy, as it defers policy to a later date. It is against this backdrop that a chartered accountant and head of finance at UMB Capital, Nelson Kujo Kugbeje, has urged the government to prioritize the private sector in the upcoming 24-hour economy policy to be presented to Parliament to ensure sustainable economic expansion.
We remain committed to the pursuit of our 24-hour economic policy of stimulating economic growth and job creation. Right Honourable Speaker, will be presenting the 24-hour economic policy to Parliament in due course.
Head of Finance at UMB Capital, Nelson Kujo Kwagbeji, is of the view that the 24-hour economic policy, if designed with the private sector in mind, can potentially unlock new opportunities for economic growth, increase productivity, and enhance Ghana's competitiveness in the global market.
As a result of the 24-hour economy, we expect the increase in productivity to translate into increase in revenue. And once these companies are doing so well, their revenues has gone up, technically it will translate into tax revenue for the government. And so in terms of economic growth, I expect the 24-hour economy to play a significant role as far as economic growth is concerned.
Nelson Kwagbeji notes that agriculture should be a prominent feature in the country's economic growth agenda. He believes that a thriving agricultural sector is vital to Ghana's economic development and sustainability.
During the recent State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President, he made mention of the fact that every year Ghana spends $300 million in the importation of chicken and chicken-related products. I believe that that money could have been sunk into the poultry industry. And so we expect agri to play a major role in our quest to grow our economy.
Well, let's know what you make of the 2025 budget presented by government yesterday. Just go on to Facebook, we are live TV3 Ghana. Engage us with your comment and we'll surely read them and share them to the rest of the world. In more news this morning, 4 out of the 7 individuals accused of stealing from former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Binatapa have submitted a plea bargaining request to the Attorney General. The 7 individuals, including her former house helps, are facing charges for allegedly stealing money and jewelry from her home. Lord Iduasare reports.
In court on Tuesday, March 11, the lawyer for the 4, Patience Buchi, hairdresser, Sarah J, an unemployed, Benjamin Soa, a plumber, and Malik Dauda, another unemployed, informed the court that they had written a request for a plea bargain. Yahya Sumaila, an excavator operator, is also among the applicants. However, the prosecution noted that they had not yet seen the request by the defense lawyers. Presiding Judge Marie-Louise Simmons directed the defense lawyers to serve the prosecution with the necessary documents. Meanwhile, lawyers for the 5th and 6th accused persons, Christiana Achab and Joe Palmery, prayed the court to discharge their clients after Cecilia Dapa, during cross-examination, indicated that she did not know them. Appearing before the High Court, Cecilia Dapa disclosed that aside the money stolen from her residence, the accused persons also took jewelries valued at $95,000. She noted that the items were acquired over a period of 35 years. Breaking down the cash stolen from her house, the former Sanitation Minister noted that $210,000, which was part of an $800,000 belonging to her deceased brother, was stolen. Other amounts allegedly stolen included $200,000 belonging to Dorcas Redua, a client and relative of her husband, 300,000 euros belonging to her husband, 300,000 Ghana cedis, which was contributions toward the final funeral rites of her late mother, and 50,000 Ghana cedis of her personal funds. The case has been adjourned to Wednesday, March 12.
Well, on that legal note, we end the morning news. For more news updates, you'd want to log on to our website, is 3news.com. Thanks for watching. It's always a pleasure coming your way. Have a good morning.